everybody.
Hi.
Welcome,
Let me know.
Hi, how you doing, sweetheart?
There you go.
welcome to another edition of Artist Encounters. I'm joining everyone from the office at Gallery North. So if I get distracted at any moment, it's just we have visitors and everything. So I'm kind of going to be back and forth here. I want to welcome Marcille Kazikis for showing us the inside of her studio and joining us with some of her amazing landscapes and abstract works. And Marcy, would you like to
Sure.
share and tell us all about your work and
Okay.
how it began for you?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Kate and Gallery North and everyone for showing up today. I know a lot of people are watching the Masters today, so I appreciate your attention. It's been really great of Gallery North to host these artist encounters and for us artists to be able to connect during this time when we're all kind of on lockdown. So let me just, Kate, did you enable share screen, I think? Yes, okay, we're good.
Yes, you should be able to.
Right, here we go. So I wanted to start off the talk today about my journey to becoming an artist. It's a little bit different than a lot of my friends that I hear talk about, that from a young age, they knew they were meant to draw, they knew they were meant to create. In 2001, I just moved into a beautiful home that my husband and I had built on the North Shore of Long Island. And I woke about 2 weeks, about this time, right before Thanksgiving, with terrible compression, burning pain in my throat. I couldn't swallow, I couldn't speak. It was very acute, came on suddenly. I had not been ill, had not been in a car accident, had just felt terrible, didn't know what had caused this. Went to the doctor, hospital, several tests, every test known to man, CAT scans, MRIs, and much to my dismay and my family's, we couldn't find a diagnosis for what was ailing me. And it was the kind of burning compression pain that it just takes you out. I was in bed or in a horizontal position most of the time. And over the course of the next 8 to 10 years, I hate to say, but went from doctor to doctor, specialist to specialist, traveling the country, the Mayo Clinic, not having a diagnosis, and more importantly, not having any relief from this pain. And all I can say is that pain is all consuming. It takes all your energy, and I felt that it sort of taken my life away. We tried every drug known to man. I was on all the clinical trials at all the hospitals in New York for pain medication, the heavy duty hitters, methadone and morphine, all the ones, Special K infusions. Those were ineffective. All they basically did was render me unconscious, and that's not a way to live. It's being a comatose, but I'm not alive. The last result, the last possible treatment for me was brain surgery. They were going to put in a brain stimulator in the back of my head and run a wire down the back of my head and put a little device in my chest so that I could wire up electricity to turn down the pain. And even with that, they weren't sure how effective that would be. It was a risky surgery. They weren't sure. So at this point, I was feeling pretty hopeless in my life at that point. And miraculously, about the same time, my daughter was returning to school and had about 6 months left of tuition on her art school at Roslyn School of Painting. And the owner said, Marcy, you should come, paint with us, come try. I said, I'm very sick. I can barely get out of bed. I can't stand for 3 hours. I can't sit for 3 hours. Just come and try. So I started at Roslyn School of Painting, and to my amazement, from the first day that I started painting or drawing, I wasn't in pain. It was like a miracle after 12 to 15 years of having pain and no relief that I could go draw, pick up a paintbrush, and I was out of pain. So art for me has been my way to treat the chronic condition that I have now. I'm not on pain medication. I'm able to function. The more I paint, the longer the refractory time that the pain comes back. If I paint for 4 hours, I'm out of pain the whole day. So for me, it's been a miracle. I think it has rewired my brain in some ways. And for me, doctors are amazed that this has been sort of my miracle in getting well and helping myself stay well. So Roslyn School of Painting, I started there and I met I was fortunate to meet a group of very talented artists and a dear friend, Howard Rose, who kind of took me under his wing, and I've been studying with him all these years, taught me about setting up design, color light, getting in good drawings, learning everything that I needed to do to become an artist and to work outside, as we all know, is challenging. There are 360-degree views in front of us, and the light is always changing, trying to get a good drawing in, dealing with the conditions that are going on, bugs, mosquitoes, boats moving around. It's always quite a challenge. I use a very sturdy box here that doesn't seem to move, and it's been very helpful when I'm outside. As a painter, I paint both representationally and abstractly, and for me, I think with my pain issue, I feel that the two styles are kind of converging. And for me, it's like working one side of the brain, getting confused, and then working the other side of the brain and keeping it equally confused. And for some reason, that works for me. The small paintings, my goal is to get in a great design, not paint exactly what's in front of me, but work with color and texture and try to make a small painting feel large. I work from direct observation, and also during the summer or when I can't be outside all the time, it's nice to have photo references. Photo references are good for an initial go around to get something in, but I want to take it up and make it mine. So I'm very intrigued by color play and design. Again, my goal is always to build up a great surface and have a successful painting for me, meaning that it's visually pleasing, the values work, the design works. On Long Island, I didn't grow up here, I grew up on the West Coast, but on Long Island, there's just so much to paint. The ordinary things that we pass all the time, and because I've been slowed down in my life, has made me stop and look at the small things. So these small paths that look ordinary, a green path, how can I paint it and make it exciting? So greens and lavenders, I call them my Romeo and Juliet colors. They always work so well together. I'm never displeased when I put those two combinations together. I'm interested in putting on paint correctly, mixing the color, the values. This is all mixed paint, oil paint, and putting in the darks and then the lights. The texture that I added here is just with my brush at the end, making some calligraphic marks to make it sort of interesting, make it mine. Same thing. Interesting to take, this is a 6x6 panel, which to me feels like a larger painting, dropping the horizon down low, putting in the darks, and making the lightest lights as bright as they can be, and trying to make it feel that the clouds are sort of floating by. Okay, lost my big view here. Let me just 1 second here. So this painting here was done on a wood panel, and it's a little bit more challenging because it grabs a little bit more, but you can probably see that my larger abstract paintings, which also are referenced, nature's referenced, this dune here is very loosely painted. I'm interested in getting in not every shadow, not every piece of grass, but just an essence of what a dune feels like to me and the big skies that we have here on Long Island. It's interesting, these beautiful dunes that we have on Long Island, we have the sound, we have the ocean, we have the water in front of us. And to take a photograph where you may have a straight line on some of these designs from a photograph, or if you're out looking in nature, to work back and forth between putting darks and lights in. This one has a little bit more detail than on some of my other paintings. And the goal here was about a foreground painting, getting the great shadow of the dune here late afternoon, and using calligraphy, thinner paint, using a medium to pull up on the brush to get these soft edges. As we know, nothing in nature is straight or two shapes are the same. So that was the goal here in this painting. Again, these are small canvases. This one's, I think, 9 by 12. This painting also taking a photo reference, bringing the horizon down. Usually clouds, I'm fascinated with clouds and water. Clouds are usually lightest on the top, except at sunset and sunrise, where we get these beautiful reflective colors on the top of the clouds. Waves and water are two of my favorite things to paint. And again, I think this is sort of working toward my large abstracts. I'm not interested in getting in every color change, every in-between color, the essence of what a wave would feel like when it's breaking, a great design or line, putting the darks in first, and then not messing with it, putting on bold, direct color and leaving it alone. I'm more interested in creating something that's fresh and not overworked, something that sort of grabs you and says, oh, you know, that's what that is, but not every photograph. I'm not trying to recreate exactly a photograph or something that's in front of me. I'm trying to interpret it, make it exciting, make it mine. Another of these waves, I talk about the East Coast waves, have this beautiful ochre green in their curls that we don't have in California. And I can always tell when I'm looking at a wave if somebody's from California and they're painting it, or they're in Hawaii, or they're in the Bahamas, interested in catching the waves that are near us. I like to challenge myself also. This one's a little bit more abstracted. You can see, again, a smaller canvas, not less detail, sometimes can be exciting. I like to set up a clock sometimes. This was a race against time for myself to not overwork something. The challenge here was 45 minutes, working from a photo reference. I think it worked well putting in the darks first and then putting on these lights to just enough detail to feel like the wave is crashing. There's some turbulence here that we see as the waves break on the shore, and just enough thick paint on the top to capture the splash. When I can't be outside, I have a studio and I set up areas of still life. I think flowers for most people are a challenge. They are for me. I feel like you can get lost. There's so many nooks and crannies, and there's petals and ins and outs, and where do I start and where do I get lost. So my idea here was to look at the hydrangea, all these ins and outs. How do I make this, how do I simplify it, make it a great shape, put in lights and darks, and get a great shadow? And this was a painting. Again, as you can see, I really simplified this. This is moving toward abstract, which is what we do when we paint. And again, I was interested in that light green on the leaf, the reflective quality of the glass, and the shadow. As you can see, it's not a perfect drawing, and that's not my strong point, since I have not been an artist for that long. But I am working on it. This is a painting right now. This is at Gallery North, Deck the Halls. I was happy to paint this in my garden, in the shadow, hydrangea in the shadow. Not every petal, again, not the details, abstracting the background, a beautiful dark against a light paint here, and you can kind of see the texture on the paint. There's actually a little bit of bare canvas here. Now, let me move back here. Cone flowers, again, flowers, I find them challenging. Too much going on here. How can I simplify this? This is me simplifying and working from a basic palette here, which I've learned from Howard Rose and some other people, my friends, that I know how these colors work together. And I know mixing them, how they're going to react with each other. But on the canvas, how do I get the values to work as a painting? That's a challenge. It's almost like putting pieces of a puzzle together. These are Montauk daisies from my backyard, simplifying shapes, beautiful colors and shadows, and an abstracted background. Gallery North's paint out this year, I was so excited to participate. It was very hot this year. I don't know any of you that were out there with me. I was bitten by 1,000 flies on the first 3 days. I said, I just cannot be on the beach anymore. So I cheated and went in my backyard and set up my umbrellas and had the pool float out. And I did this in a few hours. And I think anyone who does plein air painting would say that it's like being at Manhasset Bay or Oyster Bay, where the boats are moving every 2 seconds. So the challenge was to get this swan. I kind of cheated and had to have somebody hold it for a while in order to get a shadow. Kind of a fun painting. And that's why I want my art to be fun and not taken too seriously. I want to paint everything and anything. Turn the camera on myself, selfie, a quick little study of myself. Again, a very abstracted little photo, little painting. Why not paint a duck? One of the assignments in class was we were going to do toys and rubber duckies. And I said to the teacher, do you have just, I love animals. Everyone knows me, knows I love animals. Do you have a real duck? I'd rather paint a real duck. So just kind of shows how much fun you can have. And it's still about design, putting in lights and darks. And again, this sort of looseness of the painting. You can see I don't have every feather in, I don't have every bit of his foot in. I'm just trying to capture an essence of a cute little duck. Architecture the same way. I'm not, for me, I'm not interested in putting in every divided light window, the darkness of the windows, the trees, taking up the values here, greens against oranges and reds, these kind of sing. Simple, but again, I'm trying to make a small painting feel large. When you have nothing to paint, chocolate. For me, everyone who knows me, it's at the top of my food triangle. This is what I have to have daily. I didn't have something to paint one day, and I thought, I don't want to do a wave. I might have a landscape. I don't have any good photographs. I had this donut. I'm taking a picture of it. I'm going to paint it. So something as simple as a donut can turn out to be fun, and that's what I want my art to be. Putting in a simple design, beautiful color, clean color, and then a great shadow, inventive color with the background. I want to just transition over to my larger abstract pieces. A photo was taken of me 2 summers ago at the Parrish Museum in Watermill, and it's a Helen Frankenthaler exhibit. And I must have stood in front of the painting for about 45 minutes. I was so awestruck by her work, and still am so influenced by her work. I loved my pose in front of it because obviously I wasn't leaving. And I came back and saw the photograph, said I have to paint this. There's a little bit more detail in it than in some of my other paintings, but I had to do Helen justice by getting her painting right. And then I had this great little print dress. I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this one the way that I think it should be done. Actually, the canvas on here is not even painted. This is just the canvas coming through. So this is sort of my transition in my talk here to my more abstract pieces. It was very freeing to take a couple workshops, painting like Pollock, also in East Hampton, the Pollock Krasner House, not using a brush, not touching the canvas, and just throwing paint, having it interact. Where does the color lay? I'm not in control of that anymore, but it was something that was touching me. It was very exciting. Like, what can I do with this? I had so much fun. And somehow my toenails matched the painting that day, which was even icing on the cake. I took an abstract class with Ellen Hallishef, who's an amazing artist here on Long Island. I call her, she's just fearless. She's never afraid to try anything, and she's been a great mentor over the years also. So I worked with house paint, which is what Ellen we started off with, and then I immediately had to get past the process painting and putting house paint on and taking off, getting these interesting marks. I immediately said I have to go to color. I need color. It's what makes me feel well. So I moved quickly from this to abstract paintings. These are larger. They start at about 24 inches. This one is 36 by 36. I don't usually paint for a show. This was a show called Going Green in honor of one of our friends who died, and we did a show to honor her. And she was all about the environment and nature. And I wanted to, as an oil painter, take some of the things in my studio that I have so much of, and I repurposed the sludge at the bottom of my turp container and rehydrated it and used all these beautiful darks in this painting. Those are all leftover things you wouldn't use to paint an oil painting, and put paint on that I didn't know how would interact. You start with my darks always, and then add beautiful color over it, and letting things run and drip, and then adding R&L oil sticks for a little texture here in the corner. So this is probably one of my first paintings, abstract paintings. When I paint something and I'm not sure where I'm going with it, I put it up on a prominent wall or somewhere where I have to walk by it a few times during the day in my life to decide if it's going to talk to me or not. And people always say, where does your inspiration come for painting? Sometimes you don't know. And then this cat that I happened to find at Howard's studio, who came home with me and never left, I realized that the painting was her eyes. But I'm looking for the play of color, darks against light, movement, and surface quality. I was very fortunate to be included in a group of painters here at the Art League of Long Island. Stan Brodsky was the leader of our group, and I met some very, very talented, non-objective abstract painters here. And I learned so much over the years, and I got a chance to share my work and grow as an artist by hearing other people's interpretation of my work and suggestions for growth in the future. when I traveled to the Bahamas in March a couple years ago, I came back and the three paintings I made immediately were turquoise from the water. And it was sort of a tone on tone painting, building up layers of color, a lot of movement in this one, sort of describing this in front of the class. Stan chiming in, telling me I had too strong a vertical here on this one. And I decided I had to live with it for a while to decide whether I was going to change it or not. There were two other paintings that went with it. I decided to leave this one and add paint to the other two. The other one became this, which is taking paint in my abstracts that I ordinarily wouldn't work with in my landscape paintings. Quinacridone, phthalo colors, sort of bully colors, I call them. They're very strong. And putting them together and see what happens. I don't know where I'm going half the time. I don't know where I'm going to end up, but it's the in-between confusion and chaos part that I so enjoy about abstract painting. Sand pointing out a problem area to me. Afterwards, sometimes the chaos that I'm embracing, the beauty is left on the table. And in this one, I said, I love the way that the background is sort of coming through those pinks, and look at the beautiful brush and those colors. And so this became this painting. So again, I'm a very controlling nature person. Everything has to be lined up and T's crossed and I's dotted. And so the abstract painting has let me embrace chaos. Sometimes you go over painting 6, 7 times, you wipe out. I do that all the time. And then I get frustrated and take every tube of paint out and just go at it. And that's, again, this one. This painting must have been painted on 8 to 10 times before I finally was happy with it. Sort of referencing, I guess, flowers and nature. I love bright colors. They make me happy. Great texture on this one. And I think what's interesting about paintings in general, in whether I'm doing representational paintings or abstract painting, it's always about, for me, a light against a dark. If something is missing in one of my paintings, it's usually a dark. This is sort of a reference to a landscape painting. The process painting in the abstracts is tricky because when is it enough? Do I leave the drips? Do I leave the mud? Do I leave the chaos? How much do I reveal? How much do I take off? How much do I put on this fresh paint? So I'm still learning every time I go to a canvas, how much of the mud or chaos am I going to leave on it? And then how much fresh paint, which is what is pleasing to me as an artist, to have fresh paint. So I think for me, it's a combination of leaving just enough of each, and it's different every time I paint. There's no easy answers. Sometimes it happens right away. For me, I talked about being ill for so long. People ask why I paint the large abstracts in a vertical orientation as opposed to landscape or a square painting. When I'm painting, it feels as this is another being, a part of me. I relate to it. Things in nature, people that are well are standing upright, trees, plants, the moon rises and falls, waves rise and fall. So for me, I get tired when I turn it the other way. I do rotate my paintings when I'm painting, but they inevitably become a vertical orientation. I think they're stronger, and I relate to the paintings as almost being alive. This is a single go-around painting that just happened to work out well. Then I lived with it for 3 months and decided to not change it. There are some parts of the canvas that are coming through, but you can see sort of the scratch crisscross marks that are kind of my own that I like to make and experiment with. Again, no plans on how I started painting. Started with the blue, just let things run and move forward. Usually there's a problematic area in every painting, and it drives me crazy. And it's usually a corner for me. This painting sat for about 6 months with the lower right-hand corner completely vacant of paint except for the wiped out area of the toner that I had left from the 2 previous sessions. In the end, I just mixed a color and add the R&L oil stick, stood back from and decided it's finally done. A color, again, is what makes me happy. I'm obsessed with blue. I think, as I told you, blue and yellow are my happy colors. This one, a painting where I happened to go over about 6 or 7 times, and you can see underneath the multi-dimensional layers of the paint. There was red in here at one point. I'm not afraid to excavate and then relay paint. It's important for me since I paint in studio most of the time on these large canvases to go outside and adjust for values in the sunlight. And also people that are purchasing or want to live with my art, I want to know that it exists well in all light. Painting outside, painting inside in the studio, there's a difference. Outside, little strong for this one, brought it in and toned it down a little bit. This one, also one of those paintings where I worked on so many times. During my COVID period, I seem to be in my blue period. It's what makes me feel happy and connected, I guess, to being outside in earth. And I seem to be on a blue roll here, working with dark colors against clean. I always like to have a little bit of light against the dark. This is a 36 by 36. Another sort of single color painting, but different values. There's actually flat areas of paint here, glossier areas of paint where I use a solvent gel into the oil paint. Then I have things laying around my studio that are not quite done. This is in the process. I'm not sure. It's not talking to me right now. Maybe it's mad. I don't know where I'm going yet with this one. This one too. Interesting wash that came out that's behind me, and I like it so much, but I think it still falls short of where I need to go with it. Another painting during COVID, surface texture, quality. I'm not looking for, I don't want people to have to see something in the painting. I'm more interested in people connecting with the life, the sensuality, the sensual quality of oil paint that I don't think I can get in other mediums. Do a quick little, people say, how do you start? A white canvas is the scariest thing for sure. So this is me. I don't quite work this fast in real life, but this is me on a 36 by 48, about 2 hours of painting, mixing color on my tablet, putting it on, taking it off, usually rotating the canvas, different size brushes. I've either a couple hands and knees or a couple times, probably with 2 or 3 go rounds, getting the first layer of a wash in, looking at it, maybe letting it dry, maybe not, maybe hitting it again when it's wet. So what's happening in my studio now, I have a French door on this side, so my light is getting, I'm either gonna have to close my curtain or move over because this light is starting to possess me. This painting was two or three more sessions. This was a final painting. Again, it was very gray with mud coming over, and then I added some fresh paint. Recently, I attempted to do a painting outside because it's been so beautiful this fall, and this is kind of what came of that. Again, this is under consideration, what's going to happen to it next. And then I thought I'd end with something a little different. When we get frustrated sometimes because we're painting the same thing over and over again, we're starting to bore ourselves. It's time to move on to something else. I had wiped out this painting so many times. I had this ghosting of all this unusual stuff happening behind. This is actually a smaller canvas of 24 by 24, and I decided to take out my angry colors, red and oranges. And I had a very bad day. I'd been on the road. I'd been cut off 3 times, and 2 drivers tried to make a right turn in front of me from the left lane. And so I came home. I was lucky to be alive, took out my paints, went at it for about a half hour, and I stood back away from it. And I said, wait a second, what is this? And that little blue area, I said, oh my gosh, it's like a bent person here. That's like left turn from right lane. So that became the title for the painting. So that's my talk today. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much for sharing your work, Marcy. It just blows me away every time I see your paintings, and especially the story behind it of how you got started painting. And for someone who's fairly new to painting, your work is so sophisticated and is such an emotional depth as well as a visual depth to all of it. It's really stunning. And
I was going to say, I think it's really important that people can know that they can do something different. You know, I'm a late blooming artist, but I now consider myself an artist, but I do study. I'm not self-taught. I owe a lot of people, you know, to all the things that they have been generous enough to teach me. And I kind of would like to do the same to push people forward and to try new things. Everyone is artistic. I happen to have a health crisis, and I believe for me, when this whole thing is over, I would like to work with people that are in pain or have health issues. I believe there's a healing nature that is very important, and it's changed me. It's changed me.
Absolutely. Yeah, then we can open up for questions now. So if you have questions, comments, anything you would like to say, feel free. I believe, Minu, I see you raising your hand? I think you're unmuted.
Yes, yes. First of all, it was magnificent. Your work is gorgeous, and it shows your soul is so lively and so alive that I didn't know about your story, but according to Lao Tzu, who was a philosopher who wrote Taoism, every time there is a constriction, there is an expansion. And the very reason that you were, inflicted by this pain that constricted your life, art became the creativity that you live it now. And that's why when you're in that space, it feels good. I'm very happy. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Everything. I love to have it in my house.
Thanks. You. I really appreciate, you're all been so generous. I didn't share for a long time about being ill because I think when you're ill for so long, people quit asking. When you have these conditions that are lifelong, you don't want to harp on it because it's, everybody has their own problems, but when you look well, people just assume that you are well. And for me, like I said, I am a math science person. That part of the brain is not developed. And I really believe that the going back and forth between the realistic or impressionistic painting and the abstract painting causes my brain to be a little off kilter. And I think that that's what kind of regulates this nerve that's damaged, and so that it takes away the pain. I mean, I love animals. I had a horse I rode. I still was in pain. And I'm not saying I'm cured. I still have it, but it's tolerable. I can live with this. This is okay.
Thank God. Well, definitely from what you're describing, pain is transmitted through neurotransmitter. I sound like Channel 13, but you're right. When a left brain and right brain actually work together after age 50, for the first time, they become connected. And a lot of people become artists if they weren't before. I'm one of them after 50. Okay. But what happens is that when the two are connected, your brain goes into alpha state. The transmissions are moderated. And when we are creative, the brain goes to alpha state. So we're becoming the brain goes into meditative state, and then you feel calmer, you feel good, but focused. You want to be in alpha state all the time. It's hard to get there, but a lot of meditation makes people do that, but you can do it also in the way that you're doing it.
It's so interesting though that EMDR and meditation and hypnosis, and I mean, you think about off the wall treatments for pain, I've done them all. So it's interesting that somehow this is different than everything else. I have to set clocks for when I paint because I'm unaware. I could be up here for 8 hours, which is not a good thing. Nothing, by the way, I don't know, a lot of artists out there, nothing good happens in the studio after about 3 or 4 hours. You need to put the brush down. You need to put the brush down.
Susan, would you like to?
Yeah. I'm so sorry I missed the first part of what you're talking about. I was in a situation like you, Marcy. I was behind a fire truck at a whole accident, and I was so upset. I was screaming at them, I have to get to my 4 o'clock. But I have to tell you the words that come to mind when I see your work and I see you, and they have to do with passion and gift and a natural, and how amazing it is that you say you haven't painted that long, which tells me that you are a natural. And when a person is a natural and passionate like you are passionate, I be very careful not to overlearn and over study and over take classes, because what you have is so natural, so beautiful. Gift for color, gift for motion, gift for everything. And you match your passion for painting matches my passion for Long Island. I grew up here, and I have such love for Long Island and what exists here, and you have caught it so perfectly. It's so naturally. And you just give me such joy every time I see anything that you do and listen to anything you say, actually. You're such a passionate, positive, and gifted artist that I'm thankful that you're in my midst.
Thank you, Susan. I feel the same way. I feel that I've been embraced by an incredible, talented group of generous people. The people that have taught me, they're generous. I kind of want to play it forward. I don't have secrets. I want people to explore and try things. We all are gifted in so many ways. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm glad I found this. It took like a health crisis to discover it, but I never knew that this was there. So I really believe, I'm very hopeful that people, once they say, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that, if you want it badly enough, and for me, I think that there's something, I have to talk to Minu, she's an expert, but there's something that happens to my brain when I'm painting. And actually, the more I do go both ways, I think the more confused it is, it works better. It works better for me.
Yeah,
So
I agree with everything you say. It's
I
there.
I don't know scientifically what's
Yeah.
going on, but I do know physically and mentally that it's an essential part of me being well. So it's a selfish thing. I paint for myself. If I get recognition from someone else, that they feel enjoyment or something out of it, I'm overwhelmed. It's wonderful because it's a part of me. But I'm really painting for myself because I need to be well.
And
What,
also,
Marcy,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Susan, go ahead.
well, I'll just quickly, it's the way you go from one, one media type to another is also part of your natural and gifted way. You see things as you see them, and sometimes could be abstract, sometimes it would be a little bit less abstract. And it's just so natural a gift that, go on, keep on doing it the way you're doing it.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much.
Doug?
Yeah, Marcy, what I've noticed, because, I'm next to Marcy sometimes in class, that you've gone in the last couple of months, especially on your smaller pictures, you've gotten so loose, you're getting less representational and more a combination of your abstract to representational. And the mix in the last several paintings that I've seen you do, especially the wave, and I think you won an award
Yeah.
for that little wave. I just think it's spectacular, and I would like to get that kind of looseness in my paintings as well. And I think being as you're very good at the abstract, you're incorporating that now in your representational, and it's just terrific. So
Thank you, Doug. Listen, I appreciate being in the presence of all these talented people. I get to paint next to Doug on Thursdays. He's super talented. I think we all feed off each other. And like I said, we're fortunate to be in a community of talented people that are very generous. I, for some reason, need to be all over the place, but I think it's because of, like I said, the pain issue. And there's something about being confused a little bit all the time. That's a good thing for me. So, I'm a controlling type A personality. So the chaos that goes on in the abstract is like changing my life. I mean, I was so nervous I'm not a speaker. I was so honored by Gallery North to be able to do this. I didn't want to disappoint Gallery North. And I thought, well, I got to have some good stuff to talk about. And I was nervous. I said, I have to actually this afternoon hit another big campus. And I had like a total mess over here. But I like that. I like that it's not neat. I've got paint on my shoes. There's paint on I really enjoy that part of it. That's part of the journey. Thank you, Doug.
you're welcome.
We have another question asking. Not sure who. There we go.
Hi, Marcy. I just wanted to say, thank you so much for sharing your wonderful art. It evokes a certain emotion, I know personally for me. And I think in my question for you, kind of goes hand in hand with, emotion in an artist and how you use that to create your pieces. And I think in a year where there's been this, global pandemic and people have been affected in so many different ways, my question to you is, and you kind of alluded to this with your blue period during COVID, is just like that. How have you seen your art kind of affected by, the isolation and the lack of social, you know, social environment these days, and where would you say your emotions and your art have kind of come together in these last 6 or 7 months as we've gone through such uncertain times?
Good question. I actually, Stan Brodsky had given us a list of Diebenkorn's, notes to ourselves before starting and painting them, and there were a couple that sort of have resonated with me. But I think that we all are feeling not particularly good right now. If I didn't know this was a marathon, I'm not a runner. I might be a sprinter, but I'm not a marathoner. So if I'd known in March, it would be overwhelming to know that we're still where we are kind of today. I show up all the time to paint, whether there's inspiration or it's just showing up. Like if you're waiting for something to come along that's going to inspire you to paint, you will never paint. I'm trying to show up. I always start with the dark. So I think there's more darkness in my paintings now when I'm starting, because that's just how I'm feeling. But inevitably, I want to put something in front of me that's pleasing, because I am feeling isolated and a little dark and a little sad these days, as we all are. And that's where my base point is, starting from dark, working to light, and showing up, even if it's a terrible day in the studio and I wipe it out, at least I showed up. I'm going to give myself credit for showing up. This doesn't happen all at once. Sometimes there's terrible things that happen, and that's okay to wipe out. And I guess you have to attempt what's uncertain, because certainty, that was in Diebenkorn, certainty may or may not come. I don't know where I'm going, and that's kind of the excitement. If you're afraid of wasting paint, you don't want to be doing what I'm doing. So I think I've gotten past that. I'm just going to come up here, and whatever happens, happens. Sometimes wonderful things do. It's been a place for me to be disconnected to everything else, not from my people, but the things that are happening in the world have been so disturbing and have been bringing us all down. It's a way to escape that and be in a joyful place. That's why my paintings are bright. That's why there's a lot of color. For me, they're happy, they're joyous. Hope that answered. I don't know if that answered or not.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think you hit the nail on the head, and the biggest thing for me is to see your progression. Like you said, this doesn't happen in a couple hours, especially the larger abstracts, and you can kind of see that how you might have started at a certain point in your day and how you were feeling, and then you could end up in a totally different emotional stratosphere, I guess, the next day, and it shows in your art, and it's a joy to look at.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you.
Really is.
Hi, Marcy. Can I say something next?
Sure, absolutely.
Hi, Marcy. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I always enjoy looking at your art. Everything is so beautiful. And mostly, I'm just so inspired by your drive and your story, and what a personal journey that the art has taken you through, and how it's been so healing for you. Because, of course, I could relate to it being an art therapist and all, and you're a real testament to the power and the healing power of art. And you've gone beyond just the healing power of it. You've kind of drawn out your own beauty in it, and it certainly reflects in everything you do. And just beautiful paintings, and just keep on doing it. It's a joy to look at. Thank you. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your input. Some very talented people here.
I'm just gonna hop on and say something. And
I know you.
yeah. But I just want to say, Mom, I am so beyond proud of you for everything you've done, and to see you transition these past couple of years has been amazing. And to see where you started and where you are now, it's incredible, and you're so talented. And to have a great role model like you to look up to for someone who never really was an artist, and to take up art later in life is just, shows to me that, not to be afraid to try something just because, late in life I'm afraid or they don't have the traditional training. But like I said, you've just become such an amazing artist, and to see you transition from, having your more kind of still lifes and then going to abstract, it has just been so amazing to watch you grow. And I'm so proud of you, and I just really lucky to have you as a mom. So just wanted to say that, Mom. So. Very proud of
Thanks, Victoria. You started me.
Yeah.
There can be more than one artist in the family, by the way.
you.
I think Kate would agree with me on that. I think there can be more than one artist.
Yeah, I still think that's amazing how that worked out. Just
Yeah, I
really
mean, if it weren't for Victoria, I wouldn't be painting. Go figure.
yeah, yeah.
Go figure.
Oh, so wonderful. All right, we have other questions or comments. Feel free to unmute yourself and
Hello,
come on.
Marcy. Hi, Marcy.
Hello.
Hi. First of all, I am not an artist, and I usually prefer when I understand the paintings and I know what it is. I said, that's a dog and that's a duck and, that's a wave. But something about, you keep saying chaos in your abstracts. I see peace come through there. For some reason, they are, there's like an emotion that comes through, and it's just so soothing, all of your work. And so I think that you're very brave to put your emotions out there. But I see peacefulness inside of you when I look at all these beautiful abstracts. They're just stunning. And it's not usually something that I gravitate to, but yours are just beautiful. The colors, the way that you move, the movement, it's just beautiful. So I have two questions. Do you ever take your paintings and your work from when you first started and compare? And I hope you're kind to yourself when you do that, because you have come so far, but you always had the talent. It's always been there. So I was just wondering if that's something that you refer back to, your older paintings. And my second question is, and I think I might have asked you this once before, but how do you know when you're done? You say that you keep working on them and you put them in different lights, but when do you say to yourself, okay, it's ready to show to the world now? How do you know inside that it's ready?
I like to, the first question, whether I refer to other pieces. The representational work, I have stuff from when I started, when I was at Roslin School of Painting, when I got her tuition at Roslin School of Painting. I still have those. I kind of treasure. I look back on them, I'm like, but it was the launching pad for everything else. The larger abstract pieces, as you know, I have a lot of wall space in my house, so I have a lot of real estate to be able to cover. I put them everywhere. So I paint and I put them out. I don't leave them in a little closet somewhere. I have to walk by them. If I'm unsure, I leave them out where I have to walk by them in natural lights, different lights that I have in the house. And eventually, at some point, everything is working in harmony, and there's not one spot that's screaming out saying this area here doesn't go. For me, like I said, it's really weird. It's right in the middle of the painting, like the heart of the painting, or one of the edges. Always. I don't, that drives me crazy. But I live with them for a while, and I'm very critical about them. And when I feel that they're okay, then I'm good to leave them alone. And somebody will say, I go to critique groups and people will say, well, what about that spot right there? And I'll be, what? In the whole scope of the painting, that needs to be there. But so, especially the large abstracts, I think it's very subjective. Like I said, I'm painting for me. It's my way to stay well, and I need to have brightness and light. And there is a lot of turmoil and chaos in there, but there is great color, and that's, I think, the joy that are in the paintings. And that's something that I need for myself always. And I'm happy that people are, when they look at it, that they, and also looking at paintings you have to come over, Debbie, and look at them in person, because it's not the same. There's a stance at a sensuality and movement and life to oil paints. You want to touch them. And I feel I would like people to be able to touch the paintings and experience them, because that's what they're meant to do. Sort of light, and they're inspired by feelings, but a lot of nature. I love to be outside. So I spend a lot of time walking back and forth. And John will say, oh, I don't really like that one so much. I'll say, well, I'm not sure, so don't say anything yet. So everything is under consideration, but ultimately I'm painting for myself. If someone else enjoys it or brings pleasure to someone else, that's great. I'm open to that. I'm open to listening to critical response to paintings. And to grow as a painter, you have to be able to handle that, and take it in and either agree with it or not, and move past it or change it. I don't know if that answered it, but Thanks, Debbie. So nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
I think that's such a great takeaway from your work too, especially because we've been so honored to have you with us for the entire time of COVID here for the coffee and crits on Mondays, which we can plug. If you want to see more of Marcy's work, come on Mondays to Coffee and Crit, because it's always such a delight to see what you're working on that week. And you really do create your own joy in the pieces. You just feel it that, you know, the joy isn't there, but you've made it, and you've brought it into reality in these pieces. And it just brings everyone else joy along with it, which is so fantastic. And also what you've been saying about remembering how you paint for yourself, which I think in order to be a good painter, you have to be doing it that way, or else you'll have so much pressure on yourself that it'll inhibit you from really being to your best.
I mean, Kate, I would have to say that I think we're our own hardest critics. So if I can please myself, then hopefully, you know, I mean, I would love other people to like my art, but it's really about me being comfortable with it. And I would say about representational art and abstract art, when I'm painting from a photo reference or I'm outside, if you come close to making an attempt to create something, a wave, a flower, a house, a face, people are going to appreciate that. The brain recognizes that. These abstracts, I have to connect on some other level. I'm not painting from anything. I don't know where it's coming. So I'm not, it's got to connect on some other, people have to see something or feel something. So it's much, much harder. I remember going to Stan Brodsky's opening at the June Kelly Gallery a couple years ago. I think it was one of his last ones in New York. And our opening in the Roslyn Library at the time, I told John after I went to see Stan's work, I said, oh my gosh, I cannot hang my art. I just saw Stan's. I cannot hang these pieces. And I said to one of the reporters, I said, it's like being naked in front of people. This is all me. There's nothing everything here is me. So if you don't like it, you don't like me. It kind of feels like that. But also being nude, you know, don't we all have that dream where we don't have any clothes? That's what showing abstract art is like.
That's right.
That's not crazy, but that's kind of what it's like. Putting it all out there. It's much, when people say, oh, it's so easy, just, you know, throw paint around. It is the hardest thing I've ever done. I love it, and it drives me crazy at the same time. In a good
I remember a similar experience with Stan when we had a show of his work at Gallery North in 2018, I think, and I went to his studio with a studio visit to pick out works, and he was experiencing the same thing of like, no, you don't want to look at those. Don't look at those. They're like, but they're amazing. They're you know, just gorgeous, powerful pieces. But it does when you're doing abstracts. There's so much of yourself that's in it, and your soul that's in it. But it's gorgeous work. Let's see. Would anyone else like to?
Yes. Hi, Marcy.
Joe, how are you? I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know, me too.
Are you in Florida?
I'm in Florida.
Okay.
Hi, Joe.
I love your mindset, and when you talk about your abstract pieces do capture. They do give me a feeling, a nice feeling. And one thing that I see going for you in your abstract pieces is your color palette. The colors that you're using in those pieces, I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them in abstract pieces. And they're so light, they're so soft. They really are. That's something that I love about your abstract pieces, your color palette. They're beautiful. And
Thank you, Joseph. I love your work too. I miss seeing your work, but I am very motivated. Like I said, I have a chronic, you know, nerve damage in my throat, and I believe that, like I said, color just makes me happy, makes me feel better.
yeah.
I want to surround myself with great color. I'm not saying I don't love to go to a museum and see art that's made to make a statement or dark paintings. I'm not saying I don't enjoy that, but in my home where I live, I have to surround myself with joy.
Yes, and your color is beautiful. It really is. It makes me feel good when I look at it. No, really.
Thank you, Joe. Well, you have beautiful, I know you like greens. We have a lot of discussion about greens, so you know color.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
And
you.
I love it. Beautiful. You're doing great.
Thank
Keep
you so
going.
much. Thank you for coming.
All right, I'll be back.
From Florida. That's a long distance
Yeah.
travel there.
Yeah, I had to come. I couldn't miss it. I says, I got to go see all my friends. We've been doing this for what? How many months? Since January, whatever, since the whole pandemic, we've been talking about artwork and like, I got to know all of you people, Susan
Yeah,
and
we missed you. We missed you. I kept
I
asking,
miss
where are
guys,
you?
all of you. So, hey,
Oh,
by the way, I think I'm having my show with Ty at Gallery North. I think it's January 21st through February. So, I would call you guys to come somehow see my work if you can, whether it be virtual or however, we'll see what happens with that show.
Good luck.
Yeah.
good luck. Yes, thank you. We'll be there.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on what you said about some works making a statement. I think your works do make a statement. I think you should give yourself credit. Of course, they're not maybe like some darker, really troubling pieces or something like that, but I think there is a depth to these two that are emotionally, that it's not just a beautiful painting. I think there's so much more to them.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Joe. And let's see, anybody else want to make
I just have a quick question, Marcy. It was so wonderful to see so much of your work. I've seen a piece here, a piece there, and this was really an overabundance of beauty. I loved it. Marcy, do you name your paintings? Give them, titles? I mean, so many artists, Untitled number 32, whatever. And how do you find a title for an abstract painting?
Challenging. I personally don't like Untitled number 1, Untitled number 2. I figure that my life and soul went into, part of me is in that painting. So I usually sit with it for a while. I actually keep a list of like titles and mix up things and pull names here and there and put it together on a sheet. And eventually it comes to me when I have a show and exhibition. That's the hardest thing, or I'm entering a piece in a show. John's like, what's the title? I'm like, okay. It takes almost as long to come up with the title as to paint the painting. Some people don't put that amount of consideration into it, but for me, I do. It's almost harder to name the painting sometimes because I don't want to yellow number 1, or I don't want to spell out flower field. I want it to be something that's just a suggestion of something. I want the viewer to see what they see in the painting, and I don't want to change that. Everyone's response or what they see in a painting is going to be different. I don't want to limit that by a very small, encompassing title. If that makes sense.
Definitely.
Here. So Marcy, when you said that last abstract one was named right turn from the left lane, right? Because of that tiny little section
Right.
of the abstract.
Right.
So that's what made me want to ask you that question. But that was, wow. I'm sure people say, wait a minute. And then you say, it happened yesterday, and here it is in my painting.
That's a weird thing. I don't see things in my paintings. People say, oh, I see a bird, or I see a tree, or I see a car. I don't really want people to necessarily, that doesn't affect me. If I don't see something in it, then I'm okay with it. If people see something, that painting came out of like rage and frustration being on the road for an entire day and almost being hit 3 times. So it's weird that I would paint that and I look at it and I see that sort of bent figure. So that title just came. That the other ones are in the process of being named, but that one just came because that's what it was. That one had to be named that.
We're all psychics, and we're reading your mind that you don't even know it's there.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing how that piece is it really feels like a piece of emotion from that very moment. Well put together with the reds and the oranges. I think that's one of my favorite pieces that you've shown.
It's a little different than the other ones. I was kind of hot under the collar that day, so
yeah.
that's okay.
I don't know if I'm still on, but I also noticed something else. You mentioned about you went to the Bahamas. You know, you go into the Bahamas, you're affected by the color of the water and so forth. But your spirit, when you brought it back and you captured that feeling in one of the paintings that you did. And that's what I mean. I love your colors are so soft. They really are beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope I can get out of blues for a while though. I'm hoping.
You are. You are. You've shown so many other aspects, more than you usually do.
I don't know if you can see behind me. It's actually sort of a purpley blue. I was going to say, I'm just going to show you. Let me detach here. I'll just show you. You can't see the light is on this, but this is just the first go around on this one. But can you see what a mess I have here, people? Can you see that?
It's a neat mess.
Beautiful mess, yeah.
So again, lots of paint. I'm not worried about, making, I've got a tarp. I was covered in paint this afternoon, but I was a little anxious, shall we say, for this. So I thought, I'm just going to do what I do to make myself feel well and start another painting. So it is about color. It is about having fun and not taking this too seriously, because that's what my art is about. Really having fun, staying healthy.
Oh, it's wonderful.
That's it.
I want to tell you also, I have the most unbelievable urge to go downstairs and start painting.
Oh, I'm so happy. That's great, Susan.
I really mean that.
I love your background. I love your painting and your background. That's great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's hanging in Florida at someone's house.
Oh, Joe's.
Nice.
Joe's house in
Nice.
Florida.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing, Danny. I've been reframing, redoing all my paintings down here so that I could have them for the apartment to make it, look good again. But that's all I am. Facilities, or the kid, it's a small apartment. When I get back to New York, I'm going to get back to doing some stuff. I have to see what I got coming out of my mind. I want to do some abstract work and with texture and thickness of paints and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to see what happens too. Just like all of us, we don't know where we're going. We don't know what's going to happen. We just have to keep on going and
So come
painting.
join us, Joe. Come join us from Florida on Monday.
I will come Monday. Yeah, I know. I am. Definitely.
I would say that the best thing about painting is to be lost once in a while, to not know where you're going. It's kind of like life,
Yeah.
Okay, it's okay. We don't know what the surprise is going to be tomorrow, so why not experience an art? Just let things happen. Don't be so controlling over everything. I think that leads to trying to control everything all the time is great boredom. So the abstract paintings have led to, like I said, chaos, but in a good way.
Yeah, I totally
Very
agree.
good.
There are so many things in the process of making art that are great metaphors for life that you can really apply to other parts of life. We're just about out of time, but again, Marcy, I want to thank you so much for sharing, not only today, but throughout this entire year through our Coffee and Crit program. It's been great to see your work every week. I hope you'll continue to share, especially through the winter, and your paintings will, I think, help all of us get through the dark periods in the next couple of months. And I hope some of you will also.
I'm sorry, Kate. Thank you to Gallery North and for hosting during this very difficult time and having these artist encounters, because it's kept me sort of inspired, or at least working, getting up in the studio and trying. And when we're all sort of isolated, artists, the worst thing is for us to be isolated. We feed off creative energy. It's okay to be by yourself once in a while, but this creative energy among people has been very helpful for me during this time, and Gallery North has been doing everything the right way. So we really appreciate you taking the time and doing this, and all these other people that could have been watching the Masters. I know John's probably dying by this point. Go turn it off. So
Thank you. I agree. Every Monday when I see after I've seen your work and everyone else who's shared, I feel like so much of me wants to just put my soul into my art. And it's, I'm thankful for you and everyone else who's been sharing. And I hope some of you that have come on today will consider stopping by Coffee and Crit, whether you're an artist or even if you're not an artist and you just want to come and see what artists are doing right now. We'd be happy to have you. It's free. And I hope you will continue to share your story, Marcy, because I know even myself personally with the struggles that I've had, I know so many people would benefit from hearing other artists who have gone through different struggles that have brought them to art and have been benefited from having it in their life. So I hope you continue to share.
Thank you, Kate.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. I just want to say Gallery North has a great little show going on, Deck the Halls. There'll be a reception on Thursday night. If you need a holiday gift for someone, let's support this amazing gallery. A lot of, I think over 100 pieces you said are in the show.
127 pieces in the exhibition.
So-
Thank you for reminding me. Yes, we will have the works all online. They're not all up yet.
Okay.
But please feel free to stop by the gallery too if you're local. And the reception that you can sign up to join us on Thursday night from 6 to 8, just like this. And we'll be joined by some of the artists and hear about the work. And I'll be doing a walkthrough tour of the gallery. So it should be lots of fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's nice to see you all.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And to those of you who join us on Monday, I'll see you then.
Okay, bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Marcy, it was really great.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.